You know that feeling when someone asks about your childhood, and most of it feels like a blur, except for a handful of moments so vivid you can still feel them. You remember walking into a room and sensing something was wrong before anyone said a word. A teacher's small kindness that hit you like it happened yesterday. The exact moment you realized someone was sad, even though they were smiling. And when you try to explain these memories, people look at you strangely, because they don't remember childhood this way. They remember events, facts, what happened, not the emotional texture of every moment. Here's what they don't understand. You're not remembering wrong. You're remembering differently. If your childhood memories are intensely emotional, hyper-specific, and focused on feelings rather than facts, you weren't just experiencing life as a child. You were reading it, processing layers most kids never even notice. I'm going to walk you through 7 specific types of childhood memories. If you have 3 or more, your brain was encoding emotional information at a level most people never develop, even as adults. And by memory number 4, you'll understand exactly why your childhood felt so intense, why you noticed things other kids missed, why you felt so much when everyone else seemed fine. When you see these memories clearly, you'll stop wondering why your past feels so vivid. You'll stop thinking something was wrong with how sensitive you were, and you'll recognize that what looked like overthinking was actually emotional intelligence forming in real time. So, let's begin. And this first memory? Almost everyone with high emotional intelligence has it. See if you recognize yourself. Memory 1. The shift in the room. You were young, maybe 6, maybe 8. You walked into a room where adults were talking, and the moment you entered, you felt it. The air was different, heavier, tense. No one was yelling, no one looked upset, but something was wrong. You could feel it in your body before your mind could name it. Maybe it was your parents, maybe extended family, but you remember standing there, frozen, knowing, even though no one said a word to confirm it. This is the shift in the room memory, and if you have it, your brain was reading emotional data most children completely miss. Research on emotional intelligence shows that high IQ individuals have heightened sensitivity to nonverbal cues, microexpressions, body language, vocal tone, energy shifts. Most people don't develop this until adulthood. You had it as a child. You were reading rooms before you could read books. While other kids were focused on playing, on what was directly in front of them, you were tracking something invisible. How is everyone feeling? Is something wrong? Did the mood just change? You were a child doing emotional labor that most adults struggle with. No one taught you this. Your nervous system was simply wired to detect emotional shifts the way other people detect sounds or movement. That's not anxiety. That's not overthinking. That's your brain processing information most people don't even register. And it started long before you had words for what you were feeling. But it wasn't just tension you picked up on. You also registered the opposite, moments of warmth so small that no one else even noticed. And those moments, they never left you. Memory 2. The small kindness memory. You remember a moment. A teacher noticed you were struggling and said something gentle. A stranger smiled at you when you felt invisible. Someone gave you a small compliment that no one else would even remember. But you remember it, vividly, where you were, what they said, how their voice sounded, exactly how it felt. Years later, maybe decades later, you can still recall that moment like it happened yesterday. This is the small kindness memory. And if you have it, you were already understanding the power of emotional connection before most kids even thought about it. Research on gratitude and emotional development shows that children who remember acts of kindness in detail tend to have higher emotional intelligence as adults, not because they're more grateful, but because they're more attuned to emotional significance. You weren't just receiving kindness, you were encoding it, recognizing its weight in a way most children don't. Think about what most kids remember from childhood. Big events, birthdays, vacations, dramatic moments. You remember the quiet moment when someone saw you, really saw you, and that small act of recognition mattered so much that your brain decided, this is worth keeping forever. That's not sentimentality. That's emotional intelligence recognizing what matters. Your brain knew, even then, that connection is more important than circumstance, that being seen matters more than being entertained. And if you could detect kindness that clearly, you could also detect something much harder to see, pain that someone was actively trying to hide. Memory 3. The unspoken sadness memory. You were somewhere in your house, the hallway, the kitchen, your room. And you saw someone, your mom, your dad, a sibling, when they thought no one was watching. Their face was different, sad, tired, worried. But the moment they noticed you, the mask went back on. The smile returned. I'm fine. And you knew they weren't. You knew what you saw. The truth lived in that unguarded moment before they realized you were there. This is the unspoken sadness memory. And if you have it, you were already seeing past what people said to what they actually felt. This is called affective empathy, the ability to feel what someone else is feeling, even when they're trying to hide it. Most people develop this in their teens or 20s. Some never develop it at all. You had it as a child. You were reading emotion beneath performance before you even understood that people perform. While other kids took adults at face value, mom said she's fine, so she's fine. You saw the gap between words and truth, between what people said and what they felt. And no one validated that. No one said, you're right, you did see something real. So you learned to doubt your own perception, to think maybe you were imagining things. You weren't. You were seeing clearly, more clearly than the adults around you wanted you to see. That's not being nosy. That's not overanalyzing. That's deep emotional perception, and you've had it your whole life. Now, the next memory is different. The first three were about reading other people. This one, it's about the moment you first understood your own moral weight. Memory 4, the moral dilemma memory. You did something small. Maybe you lied about something minor, took something that wasn't yours, said something unkind, and you felt terrible, not because you got caught, not because you were punished, because you understood, really understood, how it affected someone else. You could see it on their face, feel it in your chest. You knew you'd caused something, and that knowing sat inside you like a weight you couldn't put down. This is the moral dilemma memory, and if you have it, your conscience was online earlier than most children's. Research on moral development shows that most children don't develop true perspective taking, the ability to genuinely understand how their actions affect others, until age 7 or 8. Some, not until much later. You had it young. You weren't following rules to avoid punishment. You were following an internal compass that said, hurting people is wrong because I can feel what it does to them. While other kids tested boundaries without much internal consequence, you were carrying guilt for things most children wouldn't think twice about. You couldn't just do something and move on. You had to process it, feel it, understand its impact. That's not being oversensitive. That's advanced moral reasoning. Thinking about ethics before you had the vocabulary for it. And that early conscience, it's still with you. It's why you hold yourself to standards others don't consider. Why you feel responsible for things that aren't your fault. Why you can't just let things go the way other people seem to. But your emotional intelligence wasn't just processing people and morality. It was processing something even more raw, your physical environment itself. And this next memory proves it. Memory 5, the sensory overload memory. You remember a place, a situation, a moment, and what you remember most isn't what happened, it's what it felt like. The exact smell of your elementary school hallway when you were anxious. The specific sound of voices raised in another room. The feeling of a certain fabric against your skin when you were overwhelmed. The way light looked through a window when you needed to escape. This is the sensory overload memory. And if you have it, your nervous system was processing environmental stress at a heightened level. This is linked to sensory processing sensitivity, a trait found in about 20% of the population. People with high sensitivity don't just experience environments, they absorb them. Most people don't realize they have this trait until adulthood. You were experiencing it as a child without knowing what it was. Other kids could be in a loud, chaotic environment and feel fine. You were tracking every sound, every shift in energy, every emotional undercurrent in the room. You remember the sensory details because they weren't background noise. They were data. Your nervous system was using them to assess safety, read the emotional temperature of a space, determine whether you needed to protect yourself. That's not weakness. That's sophisticated threat assessment. You were reading environments the way other people read books. And the fact that you remember these details so clearly, they mattered. They were your early warning system, your body telling you what your mind couldn't yet articulate. So your brain was absorbing everything, people's emotions, moral weight, sensory data. That's an enormous amount to carry as a child, which is exactly why this next memory exists. It's what you did to survive it. Memory 6, the self-soothing memory. You had a corner of your room, a spot in the backyard, under a table, in a closet. When things felt like too much, you went there. Not because anyone told you to, not because you were in trouble, because you needed to be alone with your feelings, to think, to process, to return to yourself. This is the self-soothing memory, and if you have it, you developed intrapersonal intelligence, the ability to understand and regulate your own emotions, earlier than most. Research on emotional development shows that most children rely entirely on external regulation. When they're upset, they need a parent to soothe them. They don't yet have internal tools for managing big feelings. You did. You found ways to self-regulate before anyone taught you how. While other kids needed constant external comfort, you were building an internal system. You knew instinctively, when I feel overwhelmed, I need space. When I need to think, I need quiet. When my emotions are too big, I need to be alone with them first. That's not antisocial. That's early emotional intelligence. You were learning to be your own first responder, and that skill is still with you. It's why you need alone time to process, why you can't just talk it out immediately, why you need space to understand what you're feeling before you can share it with anyone else. And then, after all that processing, all that self-regulation, all that carrying, there was one moment that changed everything. The moment someone finally saw you. Memory 7. The validation memory. Someone saw you, really saw you. A teacher noticed you were struggling and asked if you were okay. A friend understood something about you without you having to explain. A family member actually listened when everyone else talked over you. You remember that moment, exactly how it felt to be seen, to be heard, to have someone recognize what you were carrying. You remember it because it was rare, because most of the time you felt invisible, misunderstood, like you were living in a different emotional reality than everyone around you. But in that one moment, someone got it, and it mattered so much you've never forgotten. This is the validation memory, and if you have it, you understood, as a child, the power of being truly seen. Research on attachment and emotional development shows that children who remember specific moments of validation often grew up in environments where emotional attunement was inconsistent. They remember being seen because those moments stood out against a background of not being seen. That's not a failing on your part. That's your emotional intelligence recognizing what you needed and noticing when you finally got it. You weren't just a child going through life. You were a child aware of your own invisibility, aware that people weren't seeing you fully, aware that being understood mattered more than almost anything. And when it finally happened, when someone actually saw you, your brain encoded that moment permanently because it knew this is what connection is supposed to feel like. That longing for being seen, it's still with you. It's why surface-level relationships don't satisfy you, why you need people who actually get you, why you'd rather be alone than pretend to be understood. So let's step back and look at what all 7 of these memories actually mean together. If you have these memories, your childhood wasn't typical. The shift in the room, the small kindness, the unspoken sadness, the moral dilemma, the sensory overload, the self-soothing, the validation. These aren't random memories. They're evidence. Evidence that your brain was processing emotional information at a level most children never reach, reading people, environments, and yourself with tools most adults still haven't developed. The world told you that you were too sensitive, that you overthought everything, that you should have just been a normal kid. Here's the truth. You weren't too sensitive. You were appropriately sensitive to information most people miss. You didn't overthink. You thought deeply about things that mattered. You weren't abnormal. You were developing emotional intelligence in real time. And yes, it was a double-edged sword. It gave you depth, empathy, and insight. But it also meant you felt everything more intensely, noticed things you couldn't change, carried emotional weight other kids didn't even see. But that weight taught you something most people spend their whole lives trying to learn. That emotions matter. That connection is everything. That being truly seen is one of the most powerful experiences a human being can have. Your memory isn't broken because it's selective. It's specialized. Your brain wasn't recording facts. It was recording significance. And the memories you kept are the ones that shaped who you became. You're not remembering wrong. You're remembering what mattered. And what mattered was always emotional truth. Which of these 7 memories do you have? Drop a number in the comments, 1 through 7. Or, if a specific memory came to mind while watching this, tell me about it. I read every single one. If this video helped you understand your own childhood differently, share it with someone who might need to hear it. They may never find the words themselves, but this might say it for them. And if you're new here, this channel exists for people who feel deeply, remember intensely, and have spent their lives wondering if that makes them different. It does. But different isn't wrong. Different is rare. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.